Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the July 7th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. My volume might, all right, hopefully my volume is cool right now. So, shout out to the people who are watching on Facebook Live. Props to the people who are watching on YouTube Live. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I might go on IG Live in a second. Let me do that right quick. Bear with me. Give a few more of y'all the opportunity to come in. Let's see. So we're gonna rock with it. So I don't know. Some of y'all might have just saw that I went live. No, you're not late, Leslie. I'm just now tuning in. Props to you. So some of y'all might have saw that I just went live from a gun violence prevention meeting that was taking place. It was scheduled for 7 o'clock, and with some organizations here in Philadelphia, like Penn Medicine, and I signed on. See a lot of white people. Was kind of perturbed a little bit that it was the majority white people, just because we know that people being most affected within the communities are black and brown folk. And so I stayed there for a few minutes, even though my spirit was telling me, Phil, you need to leave. This you the emotional labor that this going to require, you just ain't got it in you right now, baby boy. You just don't have it in you. And so I left. and so I left. Listen, man, when you live in this advocacy life and this activist life that a lot of people claim to be, you got to pick and choose what you desire to be a part of. You can't be a part of everything. I was invited to participate in that. I have no idea. They could potentially be doing great work. They could potentially be doing great work and have some great solutions. Because again, I'm tired of getting in spaces with other intellectuals and we just talking. Like, I'm tired of talking. Like Marshawn Lynch says, I'm about that action, boss. And where I am at in my life, like, I'm not interested in talking. I understand that's an important part. We talk about we need to have uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable conversations. That's the buzzword when we talk about racism and social justice and activism. These difficult conversations. It's like, yo, I'm tired of talking. Yes, it's alarming that there's been 800 shootings. It's extremely alarming. By us sitting here for this hour with this conversation with these white folk, it's not going to stop that. It's not going to stop that, right? And so we need to continue to do our individual work and hopefully bring it together as a collective where we're truly talking about solutions. And I just thought I didn't feel the urgency in their voices. And again, you might be saying, Phil, you were only in there for about 4 minutes. I saw you. I didn't hear the urgency. Like the urgency is now, right? Like when you sit and listen to these white folk, and again, it's not even just white folk. It was older black folk in there too, including the individual who invited me. I appreciate it. But the people who gun violence is impacting most, the most vulnerable, the marginalized, they're not in these conversations. They're not on these panels. That's why I hate doing panels and stuff like that, because it's like we speaking about the problem. We're speaking about the issues from a place of privilege. I'm tired of talking from a place of privilege, and maybe that's why my voice needed to be in there, right? It's a distinct reason as to why my voice needed to be in that meeting, to tell these white folk, listen, we're privileged to be able to be here at 7 p.m. talking about the perfect time to have a meeting. Like, F all that. Again, that's not where I am. And so I don't begrudge anybody for wanting to continue to converse. But again, the emotional labor that it requires, it's just not in me. It's just not in me, and it is what it is. So we're going to get right into these topics, right? So we talk about these topics. The first one is what's been taking place with Desean Jackson. So he's a Philadelphia Eagle football player, wide receiver. At one point, he was a great wide receiver. Now he's pretty good. He's here. He was injured all of last season. He found himself under the microscope in the fire between yesterday and today because he made a series of posts. And they've been deemed anti-Semitic by the governing bodies who can call a post anti-Semitic. You might be saying, what's the post? Listen, I'm not getting into it. Right? I'm not going to be reading the post. Google is your friend. But one of the posts was falsely attributed, and I say falsely attributed to Hitler, where he's talking about, in essence, the Asiatic black man is the original man, the original the original people, and throw in the word Jews. I hate the word Jews, right? Because it's just it don't pass the smell test for me. But it was really saying like, listen, Negroes, black folk, we are it. We are the originators. We are Bobby Brown. And it threw in the Jews and some world domination, some devastation type stuff. If I was Jewish, even with me not being Jewish, it was an anti-Semitic post. When I say it was falsely attributed to Hitler, it just shows you how things run, right? How things run rampant. Now, before, I wanted to see if it was really something that Hitler said. And so I went on Snopes. And if you aren't familiar with Snopes, it's a fact-checking mechanism, website online. It's highly reliable, highly credible. Snopes said, listen, 3 years ago, we debunked this as false. It's still anti-Semitic, no doubt, but it's nothing that Hitler said. You might be like, well, why does it matter? Because Hitler is if you quoting Hitler, you going all the way off the deep end. You going way off the deep end. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the people who always like to arrive at 7 o'clock when I'm in the midst of doing my thing. Never fails. Never fails. That's why you got to live alone sometimes, people. No, I'm playing. But again, Hitler is one of those buzzwords that in buzz people, if there's a such thing, that if you bring it up, it's going to open everybody's eyes. So is the phrase anti-Semitic. We hear racism. We could throw racism back and forth. People don't want to be called racist, but if you're called anti-Semitic, best believe that's quite possibly might be the end of you, and the end of your career, or the end of your stint as a Philadelphia Eagle, which is now being mulled over by the Philadelphia Eagles, who put out a statement saying that they were appalled by the statements, by the posts by Desean Jackson. Now, truth be told, he actually made 3 posts, right? He had 3 posts. But the one that I truly care about, that only matters in my eyes, is the one that was allegedly referencing Hitler, which again was debunked. It wasn't something that Hitler said. You might be asking yourself why. Because the other 2 posts were related to Louis Farrakhan, who has also went on some anti-Semitic rants. You're not going to hear me justify his behaviors or with regards to that at all. But again, people like, you heard me talk about this with Kyrie Irving, and people focus on the messenger instead of the message. So because he said something anti-Semitic, and I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, but because he's made some anti-Semitic comments in the past, some blatantly homophobic statements in the past and present, people want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so one of them was referencing Bill and Melinda Gates and vaccines for COVID. And in the caption it said Farrakhan's against vaccines. Well, so is a majority of black folk if you ask them, especially when it comes to COVID. See, people want to throw that out there, throw out the idea of he's anti-Semitic, right? So this doesn't make what he's saying valid or his beliefs valid in other areas. And so I called in Sports Talk Radio today to bring up that point exactly, right? To bring up the idea that, listen, forget it being about it coming from Farrakhan. This is the sentiment of a people who experienced the Tuskegee experiment, for 40 plus, almost 50 years, black men were injected with syphilis to see what was going to happen, right? We're distrusting of medical professionals because we see racist white women who are nurses talking about you gotta let them die. We see the disparity that takes place with black women and how their pain is they're deemed more to be able to experience pain, right? Have a higher pain threshold, than their white counterparts. Look no further than Serena Williams, who brought this up, right? Who's at the peak of her career, right? And so, yeah, black folk are distrusting of medical professionals. That's all it said. But again, because it's attributed to Farrakhan, we got to look at it with a twisted face, or we can't believe it. Not black folk, right? Not black folk. The same thing that they ask black folk to do. That all racists ain't racist, or that something that look racist not necessarily is racist. I don't know if Desean should get that benefit of the doubt, right? I don't know if he should get that benefit of the doubt. And I'm gonna get to your comments in a second. I think with it being the Philadelphia Eagles, I think they're in a bit of a conundrum. Why? Because 7 years ago, you had Riley Cooper calling people niggers. Niggers. On video. And the franchise kept them. You have in 2017, the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, come out and talk disparagingly about Colin Kaepernick and his protests. His peaceful protest. He started comparing him to Michael Vick, who was convicted for dogfighting, when all Colin Kaepernick did was take a knee. He promoted that dog whistle that we know when it comes to black quarterbacks. Their acumen, right? Does Kaepernick have the acumen? He led a team to a Super Bowl, was one play away from leading them to back-to-back Super Bowls. We question his acumen. Their feet doesn't get held to the fire. And so near we have a black man who, don't get me wrong, it was asinine. But again, we live in a day and age where people aren't well-read. They lack the ability to think critically. But now we all have the platform to highlight how enlightened we are. You won't hear me talking about neurophysics. That's not my bag. If I make a post about it, people have the right, especially if I'm wrong, to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Because the fact of the matter is, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm uneducated in that area. And so I think with Desean Jackson, he was attempting to galvanize the people. But in his attempts to galvanize the people, he said the wrong motherfucking words. And then he went and edited it, which showed that he still has no idea about what's taking place, about what it means, what it truly means. The radio host asked me about he said, well, don't you think with, when do we learn about World War II? 7th grade, 8th grade. I wasn't quick on my feet because I wanted to get my Farrakhan point in. But it's just like, I should have said, listen, you think black and brown folk who growing up in impoverished conditions like Desean Jackson, growing up in these public schools where it's poor education, it's poor teaching, you think we give a damn about World War II and what happened to Jewish people? When I got to sit and worry about possibly how I'm going to eat or how I'm going to survive being black in America? Why should I care about it? Why? Because I'm in America, I should care about it? That should have been my response, right? But I show myself grace and offer myself grace. And so Desean Jackson, and I'm gonna play this clip of his apology of what he said.
What's going on? I've been getting a lot of backlash and feedback from an Instagram post that I put on my Instagram story. I just want to, first off, extend an apology on the behalf of me and what I stand for, because I'm one that's fair, and I never want to put any race down or any people down. And my post was definitely not intended for anybody of any race to feel any type of way, especially the Jewish community. When I posted what I posted, I definitely didn't mean it to the extent that you guys took it. And I just want to let you guys know that I'm, very apologetic. And I just want you guys to understand that it never was intended to be, to put any race down or any religion down. I post things on my story all the time, and I just probably shouldn't have never posted anything that Hitler did, because Hitler was a bad person, and I know that. And I was just trying to uplift African Americans and slavery, and just enlighten my people. So on behalf of myself, I just want to let you guys know I apologize. I didn't intend any harm or any hatred towards any people. I'm for one. I'm for love. And I extend it every day. People that know me know I have no hatred in my heart, and I never try to, put another religion down to uplift my religion or my race. So, from the bottom of my heart, I just want you guys to understand that, and it's coming from me and my feelings, and I just hopefully everybody respects my platform, my opinion, to try to just enlighten my people, and just let everybody know that there's no hatred involved. So I hope you guys understand that and realize,
And so that was his apology. And it sounded sincere, right? It sounded sincere. It was believable. I don't think he knew what he was doing. I don't necessarily know if he knew what it meant, but it sounded good. And it says something about black people being the originators. And so that's all it takes for certain people, right? To be able to post something. All I got to see is, black folk are amazing. It don't matter what came before it or after it, it's posted. But then when you read it and you dissect it, then it's just like, nah, this reads anti-Semitic. Again, it's no different than the average Joe. A lot of y'all be posting articles that's not being read. You ask somebody what's the article about, they have no idea, because again, everything is about clickbait. We're in the clickbait era. And so again, that's why when he posts that quote, which came from a clickbait website 3 years ago, he gets excoriated as a result. As far as consequences, as far as penalties, listen, like you said about OJ, I'm not in a position to say anything about consequences or anything like that. I can understand. My blackness won't allow me. How about I say that? My blackness won't allow me to talk about consequences for them. If it happens, I understand why. Am I advocating for it? No. The Jewish community came out and said, one of their organizations said, we appreciate your apology. Hopefully you work with the Jewish community to know more. I get it. But listen, man, that's like when Michael Vick and the dog situation happened. Again, to show that he was truly apologetic, he had to put himself in those spaces. If Desean Jackson doesn't want to work with the Jewish community, he shouldn't have to, right? Hopefully he can go and do some more reading, do some more educating of himself, to where he is more knowledgeable and he recognizes what he should and should not say in posts, especially on social media. But again, where's the outrage from when the kicker for I believe he's the kicker for the New England Patriots or the Buffalo Bills now. He has a sleeve of a Aryan Nation Brotherhood on his arm. and he was drafted. It received little attention. Again, this is not comparing anything. This is not to say apples to apples, oranges to oranges. But is this to highlight the double standard that exists? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let me see what y'all talking about. It said, Paul, where was all the emotions from the birds about our fight? They did come out with a statement, I believe. Might have to look that up. But they did come out with a statement. I don't have that right in front of me. Let's see. Hit the nail on the head about the point of view of World War II of an impoverished kid. I was trying to explain that today. Exactly. Exactly. Like, why should I care about what's taking place? It's no different than what Muhammad Ali said about going to Vietnam. Viet Cong ain't do nothing to me. I'm worried about what y'all doing to me. So why should I care about somebody else when I'm these egregious acts are being committed against the people that look like me? And so that's where I stand with it. Again, I'm not saying he should be suspended. Was it anti-Semitic? Sure, it definitely was. Right? Maybe not the Farrakhan post, but that one post, whether it was Hitler or not, which we know indeed that it wasn't Hitler. Again, you got to be smarter, but we're asking a lot of our athletes, we're asking a lot of people who we give them these platforms and expect them to use it, quote unquote, responsibly, when they don't know what responsible posting is. They're human. But again, heavy is the head that wears the crown. This is what you asked for when you signed up to play in the NFL. This is what you asked for. But don't hold Deshaun Jackson to a higher standard that you held Riley Cooper to, Philadelphia Eagles, or that you held Jeffrey Lurie to 3 years ago. NFL, don't hold them to a higher standard that you're not holding Jerry Jones to, that you're not holding Robert Kraft to, that you're not holding these organizations to when it comes to black and brown hiring. Don't. Because you look foolish and you look contradictory, which you will always look like. You dig what I'm saying? And just like that, we on to the next topic. So I'm going to be hearing this for the first time, just like y'all. This boy 50 Cent hates black women. I'm convinced. I've been convinced for a very long time. I hate the fact that I used to be compared to him via looks. But I'd rather it be via looks instead of these asinine comments that he makes about black women. So I'm gonna play 50's comments.
You see what I'm saying? And I look and I go, yo, this is why they get mad, they get angry. And you see a lot of sisters, they go, oh, you fucking with this kind of girl or that kind of girl. That shit is exotic.
Stupid.
That shit look a lot different from the shit that you see in the neighborhood all the time. It looks like that shit look like it came off a boat, baby. Goddamn, you don't like that, motherfucker? You don't like that? You go, goddamn, what's the matter with you? This shit feels like something foreign. It feels like something that you can't just get. So in some kind of ways, it is interesting to explore. You know what I'm saying? But they get mad, they get angry. How did you end up with this motherfucker or this, that? I'm like, huh?
For real. They get real
I just look at it
upset.
like, oh, look at this angry. And then my instincts always makes me defensive. So I go, look at this angry black motherfucker. Get the fuck out of here. You're trying to fuck up the whole vibe. You understand what I'm saying to you? Because you're going.
And so here we have two clowns, Tweedledum and Tweedledummer, 50 Cent and Lil Wayne. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I didn't watch it. I didn't want to hear it. I read the post. I read what it said. Him talking about exotic women. I've heard him talk about it time and time again. I've heard the narrative for a very long time about angry black women. It probably was a point in my life where I had those views as well. Maybe not consistently, but at times I might ask myself, dang, why is sis so angry? Right? Not recognizing that black women in America have every right to be upset and frustrated because you got clowns like this walking around. So I say 50 hates black women. 50 hates black women. This has been the case since How to Rob. And if you're not familiar with the track, I'm not going to tell you to go listen to it, but you do what you do. Where he talked disparagingly about women. I listened to Get Rich or Die Trying. I've heard him speak about Vivica Fox showing her no respect. I heard him speak about his child's mother showing her no respect. Time and time again, I hear him big up the light-skinned woman, the quote-unquote exotic woman, because her hair might be long and straight. And at this stage of the game, it makes me sick to my stomach. He is who he is. He dislikes himself. He dislikes his son. He has a long-standing issue with black women when we talk about his relationship with his mother. All you got to do is go watch Get Rich and Die Trying to see that he's had a lot of traumatic experiences that might not have necessarily been to any fault of his own. But when we talk about the idea of healing and doing the work, so you don't necessarily carry these thoughts. But this is what happens when you give certain folk millions and millions of dollars. This is what happens when I download his CD and I play Get Rich or Die Trying and he gets a stream from it. Or when I bought the CD. This is what happens when I watch Power, as bad as the writing was, for 5, 6, 7 seasons. I'm saying 50, go ahead. It's cool that you hate black women. It's cool that you have this warped idea about who black women are, like they're angry for no reason. Because why? Because you're putting out content, you're putting out entertainment, something that I could watch when I'm bored on a Sunday night. See, again, Lil Wayne has showed us who he was. Time and time again, we saw where his morals and his values were when he speaks about black women. To the point where, and how ironic is this, that his daughter Reginae, who was a black woman, came out and posted about being exotic, that she's exotic. Why? Because your dad is complicit in the hatred of black women. Of all people. Because even if you wanted to shoot 50 a little bit of bail saying, listen, I can't even formulate the words necessary to shoot him any bail because he was brought here by a black woman. He has a son by a black woman. Same thing with Lil Wayne. But again, we empower these clowns. We empower this type of thinking every day. The Power 99s, the Power 105s, the Hot 97s. We empower it every day. To where this is commonplace, the degrading of black women, the degrading of black people. To where Deshaun Jackson could say whatever he wants out of his mouth about black folk. He could say the N-word as many times as he desires. But don't let him talk about this certain type of person, this certain type of human being, because it's going to be backlash. See, we've normalized this unhealthy behavior. And so, like I said in my post, I don't believe in this whole cancel culture. I think it's something that we need to keep in the tuck for those who commit egregious acts against the culture, against the community. And so that's your Bill Cosby's. That's your Robert Kelly's. I don't even necessarily know if it's the John Muhammad's, the DC sniper. Crimes against humanity for sure, but I don't know how many of those were black folk, which make people look at it a little different. But with 50, I understand if black women in particular, but it needs to be black men who are standing up and saying, listen, bruh, you wrong. Not sitting there co-signing. Not just being a bystander, allowing these things to happen. We do this a lot in our day-to-day. Where my homie might say B, and I say, yo, nah, woman. because we can't be bystanders. Because, again, we're complicit. Just like we want those white allies, or who I like to call them, those allies on probation. Just we want them to stand up to their fellow white folk. Black men need to be doing this for boys like 50. Charlemagne needs to stand up and not have 50 on his platform. DJ Envy needs to say, nah, we don't need him on his platform. But we saw how Charlemagne the God gave it up. When pressed, when pressured, when Gucci Mane called Angela Yee a bitch. And he didn't check him right then and there. Maybe he's grown from that. Quite possible. Maybe he saw the error of his ways. But where is he at to speak out against this? I saw Waka Flocka in the comments saying, come on, man. What exactly is that? I don't know what that means. Use your words. You got albums. What are you saying to me? I saw his girlfriend, Cuban Link, talking about, ladies, don't worry, I'm going to knock him upside his head. Happy birthday, boo. She don't give a fuck about y'all. Excuse my French, I meant to say that. She doesn't care about y'all. She doesn't care about women. I don't know her. But I don't know how I could stay with a person that continues to show that they're anti-black women. Right? I don't know her ethnicity. She might be Afro-Latina. Right? I didn't roll the N like I typically do. But he talking about you, sis. He talking about you. When you take the makeup off. When you let your hair get frizzy. He talking about you. But maybe, see, she has some self-esteem issues, right? Or maybe she thinks because he loves me, it doesn't matter. It's something that she got to deal with. Either way, I'm for getting Bo out of here. I'm for getting Bo out of here because, again, what value are you adding to the community? Again, pick a side, man. Pick a side. That's the days we in. You either for black folk, all of our folk, and then he had the nerve to come out and talk ish about Halle Berry, who made the right decision and saying she was no longer going to play a part of a trans man after she saw the backlash. And he comes out and makes jokes. Again, look at the people who y'all listening to. White folk don't care. They look at him as a cash cow. He gonna make money because he know that our support is undying, it's unwavering. That we gonna continue to laugh. And just look at it as 50 being 50. 50 being 50 is toxic to the black community. And at some point, we gonna realize it. I know I have. Listen, I'm gonna give y'all an opportunity to get y'all thoughts in. Because I just got finished grilling and I'm excited for the food that I grilled. I didn't burn the chicken this time. You know what I'm saying? But what's your thoughts on this? Like, sometimes when I be doing this, I be in my rant bag. Let me see what y'all saying. Isaiah says 50 is a damn fool. And Wayne, the father of a black daughter, isn't any better, sitting there laughing. Zakia, who's sitting next to me in my crib, says 50 is being 50. 50 being 50 is toxic to the black community. Phil Roundtree, I'm fully aware I said it, Queen. I appreciate you. What else y'all got going? Because I know y'all didn't come to hear me rant and rave. The bull with the hieroglyphics. Raphael. And he posted some eyes. I don't know what you're looking at, brother, but those look like Caucasian eyes. No shade to Caucasian people who have eyes. Appreciate y'all as well. I mean, I could tell y'all what I messaged Raphael about today, right? How I'll try to make it as plain as I can. Like, I don't know, like, again, matter of fact, I talked about it earlier when I was talking about the gun violence panel that I had started streaming, but then I got off it because I had no desire to sit and have these intellectual conversations with folk who may or may not be out in these streets. And it frustrates me, like these degree holding people. And again, I'm one of them. I'm sure at times I am the same person that I'm talking about, where it's just like we get so caught up intellectualizing shit where the work isn't being done. People are so worried about, especially those with degrees, about making a mark. You'd be surprised, and I think this is where I battle, right? Where people are so worried about their presence on social media that they so worried about the individual. They so worried about getting the accolades and the big ups that it's this idea of rugged individualism where it's all about me. It's all about self. I can't worry about the collective. I can't worry about everybody else. And I know it's a government component in it as well, right? But it's this unconscious, I got to get mine. And I think a part of it is just how society has conditioned us to be in 2020. Like, I'm sitting there having this conversation about mind you, I'm in a group called Black Men in Social Work. There's literally 1,000 black men, black and brown men, participating in the social work profession. And the one brother asked, what are your thoughts on the NASW, the National Association of Social Work? And I say, because, I told you I done leaned in my blackness. Like, I'm in if Candace Owens is over here, Phil Roundtree is over here. Right? If Terry Crews is like, not necessarily all the way over here, but Terry Crews right here, then I'm even further than that. Right? But it's this idea of we want to be a part of these white institutions, these white organizations, when we have our own that exists. We have the National Association of Black Social Workers. So why are we giving them all our intellectual property and resources and our economic resources and putting it into their establishment where we're an afterthought in the grand scheme of things when it comes to work within the profession? Why aren't our brightest minds being utilized over here? It's no different than when we run to Harvard, when we run to Yale. Why not take our brilliance and run it to Howard? Or not even Howard, run it to Cheney, run it to Maryland Eastern Shore. Run it to, Tiffin. Again, man, we get caught up in this rat race of trying to gain white approval in their spaces. One sister, and I completely understand what she was saying, right? Because she's a dope sister in her own right. But we're talking about representation in their arena because they have the influence. Well, how you think they got the influence, and why can't we have that same influence? When we having conversations, they talking about social workers and putting social workers on the front lines, taking some of the duties away from the cops, like we're not already on the front lines. Like we aren't already dealing with psych patients out in the community. Like we not at risk of being stabbed and shot and beat up, and we don't have a gun. When you run to the NASW to get a quote, why you not running to the NABSW to get a quote? Because we know it's the black and brown social workers who are truly in these environments, who truly have the understanding and the wherewithal of the population that they're dealing with. You get a lot of these Jane Addams white women who come into the inner city, working with our children, bringing their biases with them, which isn't weeded out or asked to be understood within their social work, their academic social work backgrounds. Like, I hear a lot about the National Association of Black Journalists. I be seeing Ed Gordon and Bomani and Jamel Hill. I'm sure some amazing, thorough journalists who I'm not even mentioning. I know about their influence. And so my thing is, in our respective arenas, why aren't we building our own? But again, let's go back to the same Kyrie Irving conversation of, why don't we start our own NBA? Why don't we start our own basketball association? Same things, I guess, the abolitionists that they talking about. Y'all talking about defund. We talking about tear down the whole structure and start from scratch. Takes a certain kind of mind. Takes a certain type of desire. Takes a certain type of belief system that one has to have to be able to think outside the box. Because even those who say they think outside the box, and I was one of them for a very long time, part of me still might be, because I look forward to seeing where I might be at the age of 40. We think we outside the box, but all we seeing is another box. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, man, listen, think outside the box if you ain't getting nothing from that. So, listen, it's 7:54, man. I gotta go think outside the box and watch Greenleaf. As always, I appreciate y'all. Let me give y'all some Umar.
Let me see if y'all gave me any donations. Let me see. I'm giving y'all all my wisdom, but where the donations at?
Where he talking about donations?
Last
You
donation
talking
to the
about
school was Richard
when the
Harris.
school
Somebody
being
better get on their
built? Where
cash
these
app.
school donations at?
Somebody better get on their cash app.
Quantify LLC.
/$
I'm serious. I'm much
school.
nicer.
Somebody better
I'm
get
much
some
more
donations.
committed
I'm
to
about
the
to hang up.
Appreciate y'all. I'm out. See y'all tomorrow.